Started, I think we've tempted the elements for a little too long, so we're gonna jump right into this before the rain finds us. I want to thank all of you for joining us today, and I especially want to thank our legislators who are here with us. We are grateful. They've made my job a lot more fun this year. It's fun to have to be able to do some of these ceremonial bill signings and have so many good things that we want to share with the rest of the state. We've tried to group these together as we can in categories that I think are really making a difference. And today, this is about managing growth and growing in the right way. I also want to recognize we have several mayors here with us. Thank you for joining. The council who are here with us from across the state, across the Wasatch Front, and others who are really interested in growth. We recognize your presence. We're grateful for you. Now, we know that Utah's experienced net migration growth in 31 of the past 32 years. 62% of Utah's growth in 2022 came from migration from outside of Utah. Some of us heard from Natalie Gochner the other day that in a real rarity, really in any state, Utah in the past decade jumped four other states to move from the bottom third of kind of smaller states to now we are firmly in that middle tier of states, mid-sized states, which presents some wonderful opportunities and of course some unique challenges. We understand that if we're going to maintain our high quality of life, if we're going to make Utah a place where our kids and grandkids can live, we really must focus on providing more housing opportunities. We need to build more trails and recreation opportunities and invest more in strategic infrastructure. I will tell you, just last night I had an interesting opportunity. Some of you know that the former president of Ukraine and the former first lady of Ukraine are here in our state and spending time. I was able to have several conversations with them. The former first lady, she was actually born and raised in Chicago to Ukrainian immigrants, and so she spent a lot of time here in the United States, obviously, and we were talking about the rebuilding that is happening and will need to happen in Ukraine. And she said, I'm a little sad to see the country I was born in, the United States, that we just don't build much anymore. Of course, she's from Illinois, so she was focusing on the infrastructure issues that they're facing there. But she said, I've noticed that Utah is different. I've noticed that Utah is building, that you are investing in infrastructure, that you are investing in the future, and that is so important. And it was wonderful to hear someone from someone who's lived most of their life in another country, and of course in other parts of the United States, recognize. She said this. She said, too often politicians only focus on the next election, 2 years or 4 years ahead, or 6 years, I'm really proud to say that here in Utah that really doesn't happen. And I'm not just saying that because I am a politician and I want people to think that. I'm saying that because I have conversations with these elected officials, and they really are looking out 20 and 30 years ahead. And I think sometimes we take that for granted here in Utah because that's the way it's just always been done. But there's no guarantee, because there are lots of examples of places where that is not happening. And so thank you for your willingness to work side by side, local and state government working together. We appreciate our federal counterparts as well, and we recognize that some of the funding that's coming to the state to allow us to do some of these infrastructure projects are coming from the federal government. The rare things they get right, we should celebrate them and acknowledge them. But I am especially grateful for the way that we work together. Now, of course, our infrastructure is going to be challenged as all of that snow. I mentioned we've had 2 weeks of steady runoff and even some initial flooding, and we're still not back down to record territory. If you look at the snow water equivalent, there's still more water than we've ever had in any year ever, even though it's been melting steadily for 2 weeks. So we've got a long way to go, and we will test that infrastructure, and then we will circle back and we will improve it, because that's what we do. Okay, let's jump into the bills now. We've got about 10 bills that we're going to be signing today. For most of you have done this before, but for those of you that have not, I'll go ahead and I will read off the bill and the bill sponsors, and then we'll give you a chance to come up here and say a few words. I just like to remind our legislators that the bill's already passed. Actually already signed them. You don't have to convince anyone anymore. So just tell us a little bit about the bill and how we got here, and then we'll also have you invite up whomever you would like who worked on the bill, people that you would like to have come up here, and we'll get a photograph together, and then we'll move on to the next one. So our first bill is one of my favorites. This is SB 240, First Time Homebuyer Assistance Program. This was President Adams was the bill sponsor, and the floor sponsor was Representative White, who's not with us. So President Adams, we'll turn the microphone over to you, and anybody you'd like to have come up.
Well, again, thank you, Governor. And we'll have all the legislators come up. But, one of the things we do know in Utah is we have the greatest economy in the nation. With that great economy, we're able to do really important things. Not only an $850 million tax cut, but we're able to put $2 billion into infrastructure. You're going to see some of that money and how we appropriate it today. But one of the challenges comes with that great economy and with the great growth we've had is housing and housing prices. We know that's one of the things that we've really struggled with. We've done a lot of work, and it seems to me that in most of the work we've done is in multifamily, that we've actually tried to push down and allow more multifamily projects to be built, push down those rental rates, and be able to make multifamily apartment rents more affordable. But somewhere in the process, it seemed like we missed that American dream of home ownership. And back in the 80s and 90s, we had a state money program, and that state money program actually focused on first home buyers and allowed people to get into that first home, had lower interest rates, had easier terms. And so we looked at it and said, this is probably the time as we see the market start to slow and interest rates start to rise to focus on that first home buyer again. So this bill appropriates $50 million, allows people that haven't owned a home before, couples, anyone who wants to own a first home to take $20,000 and apply it to either their down payment, their closing costs, or to buy the rate down. And probably one of the more significant things in affordability will be able to buy that rate down, to be able to make those payments more affordable, even for a short period of time. And again, allow people to get into homes. Home ownership is more than just economics. We know that most people, most families, their net worth is in their home. And if we don't allow people to have that, that's a big thing financially. But in addition to the financial aspect, I think there's a self-esteem that comes from home ownership. So exciting to do this. Exciting the governor signed it. And let's go ahead and sign the bill. So why don't we have legislators come up, senators, let's come up, House members, and then anyone that wants to that's been involved in the process, come on up. President Niederhauser, former President Niederhauser is here. I'm very involved in home ownership. Let's get up here. Let's get a picture.
Dave Damshin, I see as well.
Oh, yes, Utah Housing, by Utah Housing Friends, absolutely. They were just absolutely, we couldn't have done this without them. And Mayor, come on up here.
All right. Now, normally I sign 2 copies of these bills, but on occasion we get requests for more. I think I have 8 copies of this bill, Mr. President. So, we may need somebody to do a little stand-up routine while I'm signing.
We're gonna have to relook at that.
That's a.
You like home buyers. I'm going to keep passing them.
Okay, I'm just going to keep signing, and then you can pass these down. I will say one of the brilliant things about this bill that I really like, of course, theoretically could increase demand, obviously, because we have these grants available, but that it applies to only to new housing, which I think is really important. This is a supply side bill as well that will help encourage more homes to be built, more single family homes. As I mentioned in my State of the State address, in my State of the State address, these homes have become a thing of the past. These single family homes, and we need to start building more of them. Absolutely, jump right in.
My name is Jeff Silvestrine, and I've had the honor this year of representing Utah's cities and towns at the legislature. And I just want to say to our legislators and the governor and everybody here, what a great and collaborative process we have had with the legislature, working together, state and local governments. We had more consensus bills this session, I think, than ever before. And that's a product of making good policy, of collaborating between the governor's office, the legislature, cities and towns, the development community. You know, we've made milestone accomplishments with respect to transportation and affordable housing and addressing our unsheltered population. And this is really a collaborative effort. And we talk about the Utah way all the time, but this is it. This is it.
Thank you, Mayor. And you're exactly right. And we appreciate the League of Cities and Towns. We appreciate our mayors for the collaborative process. And again, really proud of the work we've been able to accomplish together. All right, everybody look here at Nick, and we'll get a picture here.
Let's get the bill up. And
them all. Last copy. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Governor.
Thanks, everyone.
State of Utah.
Okay, more on housing affordability amendments. We have HB 364. Representative Stephen White was the bill sponsor. I think Cal Musselman is here to represent on this one, and then the floor sponsor was Senator Lincoln Fillmore. So, Lincoln, Cal. This is 364. Lincoln has like 15 today, so we're going to try to keep all of them straight. So. HB 364, this is housing affordability amendments that creates the Housing Support Grant Program in the Office of Homeless Services, amends Utah low-income housing tax credit annual amount from $1 million to $10 million.
This is a good bill. Unlike
this is a good bill. That's a guy who understands how to get a bill passed.
Yeah, this bill is the product of a lot of work from people that you see behind us. We're only to bring 5 guests, a lot of bills. So I got to bring a lot of guests. I want to thank Representative White is not able to be here today. He's out of town, I think, in the nation's capital. He put in so much work on this, as well as all the members of the Housing Affordability Commission. We did some important things with this bill, including expanding the low-income housing tax credit. Our goal is really to, more than subsidize demand, is to increase supply. And we found a way to be able to provide incentives to bring more private dollars into Utah's housing market at the low end to try to make housing affordable to more and more people.
Excellent. Cal, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, just really quickly. Some of these ideas sprang from the work of the UEOC and the growth subcommittee, or growth and transportation subcommittee, and as those ideas spring, then of course the housing commission works on these, and then they get good sponsors like Senator Fillmore and Representative White, and they work collaboratively, as was stated, with League of Cities and Towns and UAC, and it's really amazing to see all those entities come together with multiple bills. There's several others the good senator has sponsored that will make a difference, hopefully, for clarity, and both on the sides of the League of Cities and Towns as well as the developers, and hopefully, although there's only so much can be done at a state level, make a difference for the local municipalities and affordability at the state level.
Excellent. Thank you, Cal. I appreciate you bringing up the UEOC. The collaborative process there has really helped us to work on some of these big projects and move them forward in collaborative and fast ways. So, all right, we have a few extra copies of these as well. I think we've got 4 today, so we'll go ahead and get those signed.
I don't know who wants this other.
I don't know who gets them all, but I'll let you guys figure that out. All right. Everybody get one? We got one more here. All right, let's grab a quick picture. Could everybody look here? There you go. Congratulations.
Thanks for signing off.
You're very welcome. Happy to help. Okay, next up we have HB 499 Homeless Services Amendments. The bill sponsor was Representative Steve Elison, and the floor sponsor was Senator Jake Andrade. Gentlemen.
Thank you, Governor. I appreciate you mentioning that the bill's already passed, so I won't take any more than 15 minutes to explain the basic tenets of the bill.
Thank you. Just say it's a good bill.
It is a good bill. I'd like to just point out a couple quick things. The bill was unanimous in both houses, which previous homeless bills haven't had that much agreement. So that says a lot. The goal of this bill is to help people step out of homelessness. We don't want people camping in our streets. We want them to meet them where they're at, and this is going to lay the groundwork for being able to do that. It'll expand mitigation funds to cities. They're hosting shelters like Mill Creek. Thank you, Mayor Silvestrini. And it'll also help us plan in advance. The most predictable crisis every year is that the weather's going to change and that people are going to be unsheltered. So this will update that process and expedite it. And also the bill and related appropriations is over $15 million for homelessness, which is absolute record funding for homelessness. People I'd like to thank, Wayne Niederhauser. Wayne's our former Senate president, my former senator. He didn't need the job to be our state homeless director, and he is doing a fantastic job. He's often out in the trenches on the weekends, meeting homeless people where they're at. Tricia Davis with the Office of Homeless Services, Mayor Silvestrini from the League of Cities and Towns, Senator Andrade, fabulous Senate sponsor, very committed to this issue. And lastly, the governor. The governor may be upset with me for sharing this, but nearly a decade ago, when he became lieutenant governor and was head of the state homeless coordinating committee, I said, how about come with me and be homeless? And he said, okay. He was surprised Governor Herbert approved. And we went out and slept in the shelter. We purposely didn't invite the media. Sorry, Ben Winslow or whoever else. But we learned firsthand what people are experiencing. And so from that moment forward, I knew the governor was committed to this issue, and thank him for his leadership on this very critical issue.
Thank you so much, Representative Senator.
You want me to say anything? All right. I just want to say thank you to the cities and the League of Cities and Towns because you guys are the boots on the ground. You guys are the ones that are addressing what do you do when you have someone who's unsheltered? Where do you take them? How do you get them the services? This type of effort, I think we're learning and growing together as a state, working with you all. And we need to continue that type of collaboration because ultimately we can help, sometimes with a hammer, provide policy guidance, but more often we really just want to be part of the solution and help provide the resources that you all need to address this issue. So I just want to say thank you. Let's keep going because this is a problem, an issue we are always going to have. So let's figure out how we can help these people. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. I'll just say, incredible session again, a record tax cut and record funding for homelessness. Thank you. All right, let's grab a picture here. Okay. Thank you. Congratulations. Well done. Thanks, Senator. Steve, stay up here. Okay, next up, we're going to keep Steve up here. We have the low-income housing property tax exemption, HB 231. The chief sponsor was Representative Elison, and the Senate sponsor was Senator Fillmore.
Senator Fillmore, come on. I'll be even quicker on this bill. Very, very important bill. We have so many nonprofit agencies out there serving people in permanent supportive housing. We learned that because of a kind of a glitch in our tax code, these entities had to pay property taxes, even though they were nonprofits. Once their tax credits expired, they then didn't have to pay property tax. So this bill is a simple tax change to say, if you are a nonprofit and are doing nonprofit things, the government shouldn't be taxing you to serve our people that are coming out of homelessness. So thank you to Dave Damshin and his staff for their years-long work on this bill, and for all of my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Senator Fillmore.
This is a really good bill.
Okay, next up, HB 406, land use development and management modifications. The bill sponsor was again Representative White, who is not here, but Representative Musselman is here and will represent, as well as Senator Fillmore, who was the floor sponsor. Gentlemen.
Do you have comments? You can do. You do this. Which one is this?
406. 406. So many good bills. It's hard to keep them all straight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mayor, is Lee here?
I'd alluded to this earlier, but in process, kind of having a uniformity both for municipalities and developers is critical, and have a process for which is streamlined and developers can know what to expect, as well as municipalities. That's critical, and both in land use and development, those things make a huge difference in affordability and relationships, and this bill does that. And again, collaborative effort, and it's amazing to see the work of Senator Fillmore and Representative White and the League and UAC, and these are all everybody coming together on these. This isn't one individual stating this is how it should be. This is a collaborative effort, and I'm impressed by it, and I think it'll have a great effect.
That's what I was going to say.
Awesome. All right, we'll get you on the next one too. Again, if you look at this, if you look at the diversity of interest of the people standing behind us, it shows us how we are willing to work together. Okay. Smiles.
You see everybody?
There you go. Don't hide, Cap. All right, and I think we're going to have you guys stay up here. We've got SB 174, which is local land use and development revisions. Again, the bill sponsor was Senator Fillmore, and the floor sponsor, Representative White.
Okay, thank you. I hope that the impetus behind this bill is to recognize that the real estate market is a market, and therefore the price of real estate is going to reflect changes in supply and demand above anything else. And there are a lot of things over the last couple of years that are outside the government's control that restricted supply. But we wanted to take the step that there are really good reasons to have local zoning and local ordinances and planning in development and growth. But we also need to recognize that, as valid as those reasons are, they also restrict the supply. And so we wanted to take an approach where we could streamline that process so that we could maintain that local control, the local zoning, local decision-making, but do it in a way that had the lightest touch that we could craft on restricting supply, so that we could increase that supply and therefore bring the cost of housing down. So I want to thank everybody who's standing behind me here, but especially representatives from the Property Rights Coalition, the League of Cities and Towns, and the Association of Counties. This package of bills that we are signing today is really a testament to what can happen when you bring parties together. We all want housing to be affordable, and the result is a good package of bills that we hope will make an impact for a generation.
Excellent. Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, we good? All right. Let's sign this one. All right, let's have you guys scoot up here for a picture. Awesome. Okay, thanks. Congratulations. Thanks, guys. Okay, moving into the transportation portion of the event today, we have HB 301 transportation tax amendments. The bill sponsor was Representative Mike Schultz, who is not with us. The floor sponsor was Senator Wayne Harper. Senator. And anybody that is supposed to be up here, come on up.
Come on up. We need all the transportation people up here. Don't be
You know
shy.
who you are.
Come on, Wasatch Front, UDOT, League. Rob will have you come up. So this bill goes through and addresses some really important things. How do we go through in the future fund our transportation systems? We go through and reduce the motor fuel tax for a few years. We adjusted the vehicle registration fees. We created some very important funding processes as we go forward, stating that the users need to pay for the transportation systems that they ride on, and acknowledging the fact that we're switching more to alternate fuel vehicles in the next 5 to 10 years. This is how they're going to pay for it. So that's what the bill does.
Excellent. Thank you. This is very much a forward-looking bill and one that we know is critical. All right.
Are you saying we're off balance?
There's a reason it feels that way.
Yes.
All right. Thank you to Schultz. All right. Now, several of you are going to stay up here because these are all transportation related. So next up, we have HB 44. Representative Kay Christopherson was the bill sponsor, and the floor sponsor was Senator Harper. This transportation corridor funding amendments. Representative?
So thank you for that. You know, as you look at this growth and driving here, you can see the tremendous amount of growth we have. And one of the problems that we're concerned about is how do we stay ahead of this growth? And sometimes we're always catching up, and it's sad when you have to take out a house or a business because later on you decide, oh, this is growing so fast, we've got to widen this road or whatever. So this bill is to help just say, let's get ahead of it. Let's go ahead and get the property lined up well ahead of time when we know that we're going to be having these needs. And so I think it'll be very helpful to save money in the long run as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I agree. When I talk about being forward-looking and forward-thinking, this is the epitome of this, where we're taking money now to preserve these corridors, which will save taxpayers money 20, 30 years down the road. All right. Everybody scoot up a little bit.
Okay.
One up.
Okay, next up, I think we've got two left. So SB 27, transportation revisions. The bill sponsor, Senator Harper, and the floor sponsor, Representative Christopherson. Senator?
Thank you. This is a bill that came through the interim. It went through and adjusted stationary plans, went through and adjusted some of the duties of the Department of Transportation and the UTA board, made some other technical clarifications. It's just a good one as we move forward as to what we should be doing together as a state as we deal with transportation and future development.
Thank you. Representative, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, let me just say that as I've worked with the transportation people around the state, UDOT, the Wasatch Front Regional Council, Mountain Land Area of Governments, and cities and counties, and the transit people from UTA, I found that the biggest thing that we have in Utah that's the advantage and the kind of the secret sauce is that we all work together. All of these organizations work really well together and come up with good ideas, and they don't care who gets the credit. They just say, we're going to make this better. And so I really appreciate that. And I've seen that as I've had state or national committees that have gotten together. Other states always say, how do you guys do this? And that is the secret sauce of Utah. So thank you.
Thank you. It's a very thick one, guys. This is
We love them.
The weightier matters of state government. This
If
is.
I don't run a long one, Andrew Gruber gets very disappointed.
I've never been disappointed.
Touche. All right. All right. Senator Harper is adding to his collection this year. Okay, last but certainly not least, one of my favorite bills, and we'll just tell you kind of a little bit. I've mentioned this before about how this bill came to be. Last summer, I had all of my my cabinet members come together. We were actually in Fairview, so the greatest place in the state. I asked them to come and present their big ideas. And we actually did it Shark Tank style, kind of. So all the other cabinet members and senior staff, we had them pitch to us, and then we kind of graded them and ranked them and decided kind of what we wanted to really push forward on. Carlos, this was his big idea. To really work on trails in the state over the next decade, to build more trails. But we have so many. Again, the League of Cities and Towns, UAC, all of our mayors and county commissioners have been working so hard to build these trails, but really connecting them all across the state. So active transportation, we know, is so important. This will help us maintain our high quality of life. And so I just really want to thank Carlos for his willingness to lead out on this and help put this together. And I so want to thank Senator Harper and Representative Christopherson for taking the lead. And so, Senator?
Appreciate the governor's introduction to this bill. Every once in a while, you get to run a bill that is a game changer now and for decades in the future. This is one of those. This has two important elements. The first one is it goes through and finishes out the framework and how we're going to move forward with advanced air mobility. Because right now we have parcels being delivered. The next phase of that is the large parcels, and then the phase after that is air taxis and air transportation of people. So this goes through and establishes some of that framework. However, the most important part of this bill is the Carlos Braceras Active Transportation Investment Fund, which I'm going to name that after him. Director Braceras has done a monumental work over the years on transportation, transit, and now with active transportation. This bill sets up the fund, $45 million one time, $45 million ongoing, so that we can have trails that are connected of regional significance throughout the state, whether it's run trail from St. George into Zions National Park and there into Bryce Canyon, extending and improving those, ones along the Jordan River, enhancing those, connecting the Bonneville Shoreline Trail throughout the Salt Lake Valley, the trails up in Ogden, up in Logan, and other areas. This is the fund that will do that. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Representative?
Couldn't have said it better.
Hi.
Since when does the Department of Transportation head think about active transportation? That's what we have going for us.
That's right. That's exactly right. I'm going to get an extra one of these printed for you, Carlos. So. That's right.
No, keep going. Let's just
Right.
stop that.
Okay. Now, before you all leave, I do just want to say there's another bill that we actually already did a ceremonial signing for. We did it down at the UAC meetings in St. George, but I do want to mention it because it's so important in the great work of the legislature this year. It was a rural transportation bill, and when I mentioned this many times when I was running for governor, as I traveled to all 248 cities and towns, what I saw over and over again was a failure of infrastructure in some of our most rural towns because the cost of preserving our roads has not kept up with the BNC road funds that we've made available. And so I just want to personally thank the legislature, since we're talking about transportation right now, for helping us with this rural transportation infrastructure fund that is going to be just a godsend to our rural communities, to allow them to get rid of the huge potholes that exist and really improve the infrastructure in our smallest cities and towns. That's how successful this session was. It wasn't just about the Wasatch Front and the big projects here. They really thought about every corner of our state, and you see that represented. So even though we're not signing that bill today, I did want to mention it. That concludes our bill signing, our infrastructure bill signing, our growth bill